Hello and welcome to We Will Manage, the podcast exploring the weird and wonderful world of work. We are two young professionals figuring out our careers one conversation at a time. And today we are talking about the hustle culture.
So stick around to hear if 100-hour weeks are the only way to success, how passion plays its role, and what Bill Gates has to say about it all.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Do we ever say hello to our listeners? Yeah, kind of, right?
At the beginning of the intro, we say hello and welcome to We Will Manage.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
But it feels very scripted because it is.
Anyway, so today we are going to talk about a topic that I am very interested in, and it's something that I have brought up a lot with just our conversations with me and Alba. And so the topic is the hustle culture. So kind of when you think of an entrepreneur, I feel like it's the first thing that comes to mind. Somebody that works and works and works and works, and that's how they get success. And that's like Elon Musk and Bill Gates and all of these successful entrepreneurs. They're known for working so much and expecting so much from their employees. And also when you are in the world of entrepreneurship, but also just in the working world, I think in general, expectations, depending on who you talk to, I feel like the hustle is the accepted way of how you get success. You know, if you work harder and longer hours, that's how you're going to succeed. And this is something that I have really struggled with, because if I were to internalize that into how I'm going into my career and trying to be ambitious, I don't think it would be sustainable for me, because if I work and work and work and work and work until I have no more energy, it just wouldn't be sustainable. And so it's a topic that I'm super interested in discussing with everybody. And it's not something that I have an answer to.
Oh, Knox just jumped up onto me.
Hello, Knox.
Hi, Knox.
But yeah, it's not something that I have an answer to. So I'm not preaching, but I think it's a really interesting topic to discuss.
Yeah. Have a conversation about, definitely.
And I'm really excited to hear your perspective, because I say I'm an entrepreneur, but like, yeah, I've started a new company, but I'm not an entrepreneur in the same way that you are. Like for you've started it from scratch, and that's your only, income. And that's basically the more you work, the more you earn. So I'm really interested to get your perspective on this. So yeah, that's kind of the intro. If you have anything to say before I jump into my experience on the topic.
Yeah, I feel like the hustle is, like you said, very glorified. And I think it comes down to the fact that, like, all the people that you mentioned before, they will do it because they're passionate about it. And when you feel passionate about it, you can get into a state of flow with it, and it almost doesn't feel like work. We also kind of touched on this a little bit when we asked my granddad in the last episode of season 1, like, do you ever feel like, he works all the time, and he, doesn't like going to bed, because if he could, he would keep working. But for him, he enjoys it so much that he loves the hustle to the point where he's still doing it at almost 89 years old. And I think those are the cases that are shared and talked about, and it ends up being glorified and being like, this is the way to do it, because look at all these successful cases. But that's only one side of the story. So yeah, I'm very excited to talk about it today.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you said that, because that's kind of one of the last points that I had on my list, just to show that we don't no, but like it's interesting, because it's kind of one of the last things I thought of in terms of the hustle culture. Is it simply because these people just love what they're doing so much that brings them to these extremes of sleeping on the floor of their factory and things like this? But yeah, the topic for me became a thing when I started being more involved in the entrepreneurial world and doing business courses and interacting with coaches and things. And I saw a massive contrast, I would say, with my concept of what is healthy and what is going to get you further and what's efficient to what the generation before us.
Yeah.
And I was talking about this with my partner earlier. Like, it's not even like the boomers. It's not even that far. It's literally the generation before us. For them, you can't start up a company working from 9 to 5. It's not going to happen. You're not going to be successful if you just work 9 to 5. And this has really bothered me, like I had a coach during my business course, and I was leading a team, and we had to work with this coach when he was available. And so he asked us our availabilities, and it just so happened that somebody in my team had a child. So she wasn't able to have meetings after 5 p.m. because she had to look after her child. So I told the coach, any day between, from whatever time to 5, like 5 is the latest.
The limit. Yeah.
And he like immediately responded to my email saying, I mean, for starters, you can't start up a company on 9 to 5. And I was like, who are you to tell me what I'm capable of doing, for starters? And why is that the general accepted thing is that you can't be successful if you don't work.
Give it your all.
Yeah, if you don't work 12 hours a day or 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of awoke.
Yeah.
Is that the right word?
Yeah. Well, I don't know what you're going to say next, but it sounds like it could be.
That's what turned it into a topic that I was interested in and started discussing with the people around me. And it's mainly this contrast between like the generation before us. And so like my co-founder, for example, he has this mentality where the more you work, the more you'll get done, like in terms of long hours. And I just don't see it that way. Even just in that situation, I compare what somebody can do in 5 hours. Maybe I can get it done in half an hour. And maybe that means that if I were to work 12 hours, could I get 5 times more done? Or is that going to start going down at a certain point? I just think it's such an interesting topic.
Yeah. I think it's because what you're saying there, I think it depends so much. You have to be a certain kind of crazy person to want to start your own business. Because it's not, you don't get to switch off. And I think if you are that kind of crazy person that has something that they want to turn into a business, unless you're doing it out of necessity for money or something like that, and there's an ulterior motive, if you're doing it because it's just what you feel like you were born to do, then it's just so easy to just spend hours and hours and hours and hours and forget to eat and forget to sleep. And while you're trying to set it all up and get it done and do it, that doesn't mean that it's good, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, even just hearing you talk about it, I think you're already such a good example of somebody that has started up a company because it's something that they really love to do. And so for you, it's kind of it's almost a challenge to stop yourself from working.
Literally.
And like I must say that's not necessarily my case. So I guess it depends enormously on the person, and that's why it's such a big topic for me, because I feel like if I feel like I'm expected to go to work
above and beyond,
or put more energy into work than I do already, it just doesn't seem feasible to me, and it feels like I wouldn't be able to sustain that.
And that's the thing, I feel like it isn't sustainable no matter who you are. I have definitely had days and possibly even weeks of just working crazy hours, but I've enjoyed doing it. And like you say, it's like I don't want to stop, but that catches up to you. And now I am very aware of that. And yesterday I was having one of those days where I started something and I was like, I don't want to stop. But things like having this wonderful little puppy and outside commitments really helps me be like, okay, no, and now you're done because you need to go and do these other things. And it doesn't put a stop to what's getting done. I feel like it can just be hard. You don't want to stop, so you want to keep going. You want to everything that you're thinking of, and you want to just get it out, and before you feel like it goes, like I say, it catches up, and then your work, you do look at it the next day and go, oh my goodness. Like, what? This isn't like, no, I'm going to have to redo this. It's not up to, par or whatever. So it's interesting because because of having the passion for it, will have like notes on my phone, which is just to write down ideas and like things that come to mind at any given moment, so that I don't feel like I need to go and sit down and develop it right then and there. And that's how I found myself to get out of that hustle of like just being like working all day every day. When you get an idea, you go, you develop it, you take it from start to finish, from 0 to 60 in 3 days. It's just not sustainable. And maybe for someone it is. Who knows? But I would have 4 days of developing something that should have taken me 2 to 3 weeks and doing it in 4 days. And then having 4 days where I'm just in bed and like sleeping. Mm-hmm. So what kind of, balance is that? Not a very good one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. What I did, because for me, the question isn't really, does the hustle work? Mm-hmm. Obviously, or maybe not obviously. I think the examples we have, so I took kind of the main entrepreneurs that when you say entrepreneur, these are who we think of. Mm-hmm. And I looked into, are they all into the hustle? Is that how they got where they are, So like I looked at Elon Musk, so the founder of Tesla, among other companies. Mm-hmm. Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft, and all of these three massive entrepreneurs, they are known for their hustle mindset. So Elon Musk, for example, he said once, nobody ever changed the world on a 40-hour week. Work like hell. You just have to put in 80 to 100-hour weeks. Like, that's the only way to do it. That's the only way to change the world. And maybe he's right, Yeah. Maybe that is the only way to do it. So he's been known to sleep on the factory floor of Tesla when there's a production crisis. Like, he would go above and beyond. And it's true that he is a massively successful person and, has had books been written about him because he's revolutionized the world. Mm-hmm. So in terms of business success, yes, the hustle got him where he needed to be.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos, same story. He was known for extreme hours and like when he first started Amazon and demanding the same from his employees. So he was really hard on his employees. Although he also famously said, work hard, have fun, make history. Mm-hmm. So that was like the mantra of Amazon that fueled its growth, its culture, business culture and everything. So extreme, but also considering that it should be fun.
Work. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. And then Bill Gates, he gave a speech relatively recently, actually. I think it was in 2023. He gave a speech at the Northern Arizona University, which is the university that he went to. Very interesting speech. And I remember being very interested when I found it. But he first goes into what he was like when he first started his company. And he said, when I was your age, so he's talking to the graduates, when I was your age, I didn't believe in vacations. I didn't believe in weekends. I pushed everyone around me to work very long hours. In the early days of Microsoft, my office overlooked the parking lot and I would keep track of who was leaving early and who was staying late.
I feel stressed just hearing that.
Exactly. So these are the facts. This is what these people were like. And why did I look them up? Because they are the most successful people, So is this grind, is this hustle, is it the only way? And is it the best way? Mm-hmm. Is that the only way to get you to a place of enormous success? Because I think obviously if you work hard and you solve the problems, yes, you're going to get further. But is it the only way to get to that massive success? And this is like the big question in my mind. Yeah. Like, am I already a failure just because I don't want to work 100-hour weeks?
Yeah. I mean, two things off the back of that. I think, first of all, kind of what we were talking about in last week's episode about how it's not 50-50. So I feel like, especially when starting something new, you do have to give it your all and then slow down. It's kind of like when you start a family. When you start a family, you take the time off work to focus solely on starting your family and looking after the baby and all that. So I feel like when you're starting a company, it can be a bit the same. If you don't give it your all, again, it comes down to necessity of why are you doing this? I feel like it is just the most, I don't know, maybe the most straightforward way of doing it, to just give it your all and work 100-hour weeks for a month and get it launched. And then after that, you can go on a 2-month-long vacation if you're lucky and you've done it right. Mm-hmm. It might also just crash and burn and not work out, even though you've put in 100-hour weeks for a month or 2 months or whatever. But I think it maybe does give it a better chance. I don't know. But also what was coming to mind when you were saying that is obviously these three people that we're talking about are all three men. And I feel like the hustle is a very masculine kind of aggressive approach. So I feel like you can't, I don't know, have the masculine without the feminine, like just the hustle, just the hard, aggressive hustle, I feel like needs a counterpart to it for it to work. I don't know what that counterpart is.
I mean, I think that's also a massive topic that we touched on when we were talking about women in the working world is we're less likely. I mean, there are some very incredible entrepreneur women that were also on my list. I just didn't happen to get any quotes out. But it's true that it is mainly men. And this is a very aggressive, like you say, masculine way of getting a company out. And then the question is that what makes them successful? Like, is that why there are more massive, well-known men entrepreneurs in the world? And I think the answer to all of this is probably like this way of giving your absolute everything to the project you're working on, to the company. Yeah, that's going to get you further.
Yeah.
Even if you're really, really efficient, but working half the time, is it possible for you to get just as far? But then I think a really interesting topic is, okay, these people are successful, but what does it cost them?
Exactly.
So I looked into that.
Okay, good. And just before something came to mind, is it gone? In one episode of season 1, I have no idea what episode, but we were talking about if you want to start your own business, but you are too scared or not able to leave your 9-to-5 job in order to do that, so you're working on it in your spare time, is that doable? And we talked about it in depth in that episode. We will link it below because I cannot remember what episode this was in. I think that brings the point of, in this case, we're talking of even if you do throw yourself into it and quit your 9-to-5, but you're only putting in the 40-hour weeks, it's like, I feel like I say, it's such a crazy thing to start your own business. It needs a level of crazy to go along with it to make it work. Possibly not, but I feel like when you do, if you have any doubts, any other things that are distracting you, any other things, and any other niggling feelings that are kind of going, maybe this isn't right, or maybe we should slow down, or maybe we should go a different direction. If there's any doubts, it's just not going to end up getting finished, getting done, getting to the finish line. So if you're throwing yourself in and kind of, it's a way to like convince yourself that this is going to work, that this is going to be the way to do it. Is it just about mindset at that point that you're like, I'm risking it all and it's going to work because it's got to work and we're just going to do it, versus, oh, if it doesn't work, it's fine. Is it just that mindset and how you then work because of it?
Yeah. I mean, I think that plays a massive role. When we were talking, was it our second to last episode of our last season, when we were talking about kind of the power of the mind and what's the word I'm looking for? When you manifesting. I mean, truly believing in that your project is going to be success, that's a level of manifestation, you know? And then that gets your mindset in a way that you're going to make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. But can that also be done in a soft way, in a slow way? Does it have to be all or nothing? That's the question.
Yeah. And so anyway, I looked into these entrepreneurs. So these 3 entrepreneurs that I mentioned, because yes, they are successful people, but I mean, this is going to go very philosophical, but what is success? You know, what is, because this is a big thing that I think about, like, is my success purely defined by whether this company goes up and succeeds and has an amazing exit in 10 years and I become a millionaire? Is that my success? So these people are successful people because they went through that and they now have multi-billion dollar companies.
And people talking about them in podcasts.
Exactly.
All over the place, yeah.
But what does it cost them? So Elon Musk, for example, we all know a lot about Elon Musk, especially with the recent political situation. Anyway, he's still a very ambitious entrepreneur and he's still fully invested in his companies. Overall, how he shows up is as a very ambitious entrepreneur that gives all to his companies. And I managed to find 2 interviews. I mean, that's not a lot in his entire career. So one in 2018 when he was talking to the New York Times, and apparently it was a very emotional interview, and it's quite a famous one, where he said in this interview, this has really come at the expense of seeing my kids and seeing friends. So
to be honest, I'm surprised someone like Elon Musk even has kids. Like when? How?
Exactly. So he did admit that it has come at the expense of something that generally to normal human beings does bring a lot of happiness and I think another type of success in your life, you know? And then in 2025, so this year, he had another interview and seemed again quite emotional, and he said no one should put this many hours into work. This is not good. People should not work this hard. They should not do this. This is very, very painful, he reiterated. It hurts my brain and my heart. So he doesn't sound like a very happy guy.
He doesn't sound like a very happy guy. It almost like when you were saying all this, it kind of, I feel anyone who's done anything that has like moved civilization further, I feel like has kind of gone through this. And it's almost like you're putting the rest of the human race almost before you, which isn't, I'm not calling anybody selfless, like don't get on our backs. I'm not like defending Elon Musk. It's not what's happening right here. But it's almost like you say, like he's put all this into all these various companies that have, you know, I was able to live in a van for 6 months and work from it because of Elon Musk and Starlink. So he has done like crazy things and advancements. Advancements, is that a word? Advances? But yeah, at the expense of his personal life, you know, seeing his friends and family. And I feel like it probably is something that's kind of repeated throughout history of like these people who have done all these things. Like it's like almost putting the advancement of science or whatever kind of before their own needs. For whatever reason, they have this need. Yeah, they have this need, this passion, this whatever it is. It's not like someone's holding a gun to their head and saying, you've got to do this. They want to, but it's, yeah, I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah, I think it absolutely comes down to why they're doing it. Like for him, obviously that's, like you say, it's what motivates him in life. Like his whole life is dedicated to these companies and to these inventions, you know, and he has changed the world. And that's what I imagine that he considers himself somebody that's successful.
Yeah.
So what got him there? It was the hustle and it was sacrificing other parts of his life. So that's a first example. Same goes for Bill Gates. So Bill Gates, in this speech that he gave to the graduates, first he introduced what he was like when he was their age. And then he said, as I got older, and especially once I became a father. So it turns us into human beings, I guess.
Yep. It's something to care of outside of yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's no longer like your needs and stuff. It's somebody else who now depends on you.
So many entrepreneurs call their company their baby.
Yeah.
And you've put so much energy and creativity into something that you do. It does become your everything, I guess.
Yeah.
And then when you have a real baby,
wait a minute,
hormonally, because of the human race and, instinct, it kind of puts things into perspective. So he said, especially once I became a father, I realized that there is more to life than work. Don't wait as long as I did to learn this lesson. You are not a slacker if you cut yourself some slack. Take a break when you need to. Take it easy on the people around you when they need it too. So again, this is somebody that's come to this realization. But kind of my question is, obviously this has come at the expense of some part of his happiness, some part of his health, I guess. But if he had come to this realization earlier on, would he be such a successful person?
Yeah.
And then another example is Jeff Bezos, who is known for the same hustle, but doesn't seem to have been recorded as having any regrets so far. So I guess it works for some.
I'm happy. That's so funny. Yeah. And you're never going to know. It's catch-22. You can't know the different path if I had taken more vacations.
Yeah.
But it is, again, like you were saying at some point of how it all sounds, or maybe it was in last week's episode about how it all sounds very cliche and all this, but it is like, what the typical thing people say of the regrets people have on their deathbeds, and it never is, I wish I'd worked more. So when you're saying as successful, we're talking in a work sense, successful in a work sense, and you're setting those kind of parameters for yourself, you know, like for someone holding down a steady job for 30 years at a company they love could be success. and their name isn't going to be written in the storybooks, you know, so it totally comes down to you and what you feel like, if you've been successful or not in work and then in your own personal life. But yeah.
I mean, I feel like just talking about this now is kind of bringing me to some kind of conclusion. If what motivates you in life is getting that company out there, and if that's something that you enjoy doing, if you're passionate enough about it to work the 20-hour days or 100-hour weeks, and absolutely, and that will get you further for sure. Obviously, keeping it healthy. So like when I was looking into this, there's a really interesting TED Talk on the topic of hustle given by Ryan Doris, and he is actually the founder of something called the Flow Research Collective.
Hey.
That's not massively relevant, but I wanted to let it because it's such a topic.
We love flow.
Yeah, we love flow. But he has a background in neuroscience and philosophy, and he is one of these people that used to be a massive hustler, hustle. And one day he went to he managed, like, he would get up at 4 a.m. and start working, and you know, he was one of these people. And one day he went to a speech that was given by somebody that was, I think, a specialist in productivity or something like that. And it was a real eye-opener to him, and it made him change how he worked. And he realized, I mean, he says such interesting things in this TED Talk, and I would highly recommend. But he realized that productivity isn't just about doing more, it's about getting more done. And I really liked that.
Yeah. I mean, it's the famous saying, it's the work smart, not hard. Yeah. So yeah, it's the same kind of principle, isn't it? That just because you're working 20 hours a day, are you actually getting any more done than if you did 8, just really focused?
And I think so these really successful people aren't just people that hustled all day, that worked endless hours and you know, made their employees work endless hours. It's people that were really good. Not only did they do that, but they were particularly good at getting things done. So making things happen. And it sounds so obvious, but it's not
like everything
easy.
We talk about. Until it's said out loud, you're like, oh, well, yeah, duh.
Yeah. But yeah, so figuring out the best way to get things done. And this person, so he changed his ways. So Ryan, he changed how he worked, and he started setting himself like a fixed timetable, because it was the only way to make him find some balance. Like at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. or whatever, he would stop working. And because he put that limit, he started prioritizing. So he realized that most of the stuff he was doing, what didn't even have to be done, like he would realize, okay, what's really important. He realized that he couldn't do it all, so he got much better at delegating.
Yeah.
And he just became a lot more efficient worker. So probably at the end of the day, he managed to do just as much quality work with so little time compared to what he was doing before. And obviously got longer nights, became more efficient. So much good came out of that. So there is also a balance to find. I mean, we talked about work-life balance last week. I think you've just got to enjoy what you're doing and make sure you're keeping it healthy for the sake of what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I, quite a long time ago, had like a proper like schedule for myself. And then it kind of got thrown out the window just because of so much going on. It just wasn't, there were so many external factors to myself that it was stressing me out because I wasn't able to stick to it. Now I'm in a much more like, it sounds like I'm talking about being crazy or something, because I was going to say I'm in a much more stable situation. Basically what I mean by all this is that I'm no longer converting a van and living between various different homes and all sorts. So I decided I was going to do it again, like actually set myself I start work at this time I take a break, and this is when lunch is, and this is when I'm going to take the dog out for a walk, and then that's, you know, and like actually like do it. And I find when I work like that, it's almost like a challenge. I have an hour and a half until my next break. How much can I get done? And it's like, you're literally like, it's like a competition with yourself of like trying to like, you know, I've got to do this, but I'm going to do it, like I'm going to leave this now because this isn't as important as this other thing, and you know, and I actually really enjoy it, that like, okay, I've got Knox really wanted to say something there. Yeah, like find that so much more productive than just sitting in front of the computer and being like, I'm here until who knows when.
Yeah. I have all the time in the world, so I'll just take my time.
It makes a really big difference. And I really much more enjoy working like that.
So you work better. And I guess, and also when you do that, then you make sure you have the time to then do things that you enjoy outside of work. And you can you can also have time with your family and time with, if you had kids, then time with your kids, you know?
My kid is my dog at the moment, and
exactly,
he gets three walks a day.
Yeah, and then so I guess defining what you want to prioritize and trying to enjoy it, because you could die tomorrow. I mean, I think a big part of this is, okay, yeah, you're working towards something. I spent a weekend a couple of weeks ago with people that work in the finance world, right? So they are young professionals just starting in the industry. And they work so ridiculously hard. Like, if you've seen Wolf of Wall Street, that's the vibe. Like,
cutthroat,
literally 100-hour weeks, working, being called to work on something a Sunday at 2 p.m., working until 2 a.m. in the morning, staying at the office. Office pays for Uber Eats, but, you know. And it just, they hate it, you know. They just, but they do it because, okay, if I do this for 2 years,
it's a stepping stone.
Exactly. And I struggle so much to understand that mindset. Like, I understand where you're coming from, but you're currently so miserable.
Yeah. And it's the sad reality that so many people are in that kind of cycle, just because it's the way, like you say, it's the hustle, it's what you've got to do to be able to, I don't know.
Because of how the world works currently.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's all about defining what is success for you. Is it creating $1 billion company? In which case, put the hours in.
Yeah.
I'd love to say I think that it's doable on a 9-to-5. I think it's possible, but it's probably less likely.
Yeah.
But also
depends with things like, do you have a team?
Yeah.
You know, and things like that like, there's so many factors. Yeah.
But yeah, so and then there's the topic of, if it's something that you love, is it just a case of you have to love what you're doing so much for that to be sustainable? Because one of the things that I wrote in my notes is, are the successful people just the ones that don't burn out? The ones that can do these long hours and not like your granddad?
Yeah, literally. Yeah, it's something that when I was in Scotland visiting family, and that's when we did the interview with him, I mentioned it to quite a few family members, like, we're going to be doing this interview with him because he's just so, you know, he's so incredible. And he himself said that the reason he hasn't felt all these things of needing work-life balance and burnout and feeling burnout and all that is just because of the passion he has for it. It just doesn't, you know, for him, that work is life. And that's just how it's always been. And the family members who have kind of been affected by this, they all just understood that's who he was. You know, he works and he loves what he does. And he loves his family. He doesn't not love his family. It's just, he also loves work, you know, and it's just, I think it is just a different kind of human. I don't know what other conclusion we can draw.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. If work brings you so much joy, then for sure, go and do that. And what's cool is you'll probably become a very successful person because you find joy in that. And you'll have like a successful life as well because you'll be happy, you know? And but then I guess that it all comes down to defining success. And I think for me, success is enjoying every day of my life. So the reason that I do what I do and the reason that I am going into this startup venture, it's one, because of the possible impact that could have, but two, also because it's something I enjoy doing. Like day to day, I enjoy the kind of the fun and the unknown and trying to, you know, having all these meetings. I enjoy it, you know, and I think if I didn't have that, then I definitely wouldn't do it. Even I couldn't do it just because of that possible, you know, exit or that possible world impact, or it just wouldn't be sustainable. And I think that must be the case.
It wouldn't get
for
you out of bed in the mornings. It wouldn't
exactly
keep you going, kind of thing.
And I think maybe that's the common factor in all of these successful people, is that the day to day, they did also find some kind of joy.
Yeah.
But obviously they've had to give up other things. So it's
Yeah.
finding your own balance, it's trying to find joy in what you do. And if you can work towards something, great. And if that's just working a 9 to 5 because you want more headspace for other things, then that's also success, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think it is just such a personal, subjective thing. It's so hard to like say. And then, like we're saying, it's like two parallel paths that you can take. You can either do the hustle or not. So how can you know? I guess this person you said, Ryan, that did the TED Talk, he did kind of try out both. I guess he did, you know, in time, with enough time to kind of change and switch up, did go from the hustle to the not hustle. And for him, the not hustle worked better.
Yeah. And he became a very successful person, by the way.
Yeah.
He might not have been on the news, but he has his own company that's doing very well. I checked.
Yeah. But we won't know what would have happened if he stayed on the hustle path. So there's like no answer to it, really. It's so hard to know. And like, I think very quickly it stopped doing the kind of hustle because it just wasn't, for me, it just wasn't sustainable. But who knows in a parallel universe what the Alba that stuck to the hustle, what she has achieved. There's just no way of knowing.
If it is sustainable, then you wouldn't have gotten anywhere because you would have had to stop. Like, I think so much about entrepreneurship is being that one person that does continue, that does go that little bit further after the crash or after the problem, that just keeps going.
Yeah, well, it's something like, isn't it like 95% of people start something, but only like 1% actually like take it all the way to the end or something like that, you know? Yeah.
So to be that person, for me, I think that's so much more important than putting all of your energy into it. So to make it sustainable for you. I had a look to see if I could find any statistics that would like prove me wrong. And I was also talking, I would love to have someone on that defends the hustle, but I just don't see it as the most efficient way to work and as the most efficient way to have a happy life that
enjoy
surely should be everybody's objective. Maybe not. But so I looked up some stats. So 19% of entrepreneurs work over 60 hours a week, which is massive. How much does that make per day? It's 12-hour days.
So it's 12-hour days, but I'm sure the more realistic is that it's 8 hours every single day of the week. Yeah. Rather than 5 or like 12 hours.
10-hour days and working on the weekends.
And working on the weekends or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Like the 60-hour weeks are probably spread out.
Mm-hmm. And that's about 20% of entrepreneurs, and 30% work just below that. So like 50 to 59 hours a week, which is still big weeks. So the truth is entrepreneurs in general work long hours. Is that because, like you say, the type of person they are? Or is that just because that's what you have to do as an entrepreneur to succeed, to fix the problems in time, to get forward? That's a good question. But then there was a study in 2021 by the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology, and they found that productivity peaks at 35 to 40 hours per week, after which it sharply declines. So are those extra 20 hours getting you much further than what some good rest would do?
Yeah. And I guess it comes down to, if you're doing it all by yourself, are 40 hours a week doing kind of like the big things, and then the other 20 hours doing things like admin and answering emails and answering clients and doing things that aren't their work, because you're engaged in work and it's not turning off. It's not, it's even less enjoyable because it's not the reason you started your own business. But it's things that if you don't do them, they won't get done. And it's one of the most important things in a business. So even if your productivity isn't great, you're still getting the emails answered.
Yeah.
And that's obviously when you've got a job, you've got the to-do list, and then somebody else is the admin person, and somebody else is the salesperson, and somebody else and it's a team effort. And most startup businesses, if they're lucky, it's 2 people. taking on all the jobs, that in most cases, the first 6 months is one person by themselves. So yeah, when you're productive, you're doing the things that are the things you enjoy and you're there, and that's why you started what you're doing. The other, it's probably not even 40-20, it's more like probably the other way around. 20 hours you're like doing all the fun things, and then the other time you're just doing everything else, all the legal jargon and documents and paperwork and admin stuff that you don't want to do but you've got to do. And even if you're like in bed doing it, like the amount of times I've done that, I'm like, right, I'm exhausted, so I'm gonna go lie in bed to do this other things that I've got to get done today, because if I don't do them, no one will. That's what I mean. Special kind of person.
So interesting. Yeah. It's actually so interesting talking to you about it, because my little lights on my terrace just came on.
See last week's episode to know what we're talking about. Did we record that? I'm not sure. See, oh yeah, we did.
It's so interesting just to see you talk about it, because I think what the conclusion that I'm drawing from this is, it is a way to get forward. I don't think it's the only way. It's probably the way to get you there quickest, but it has to be worth it in your day to day. It has to be worth it for you as a person. You know, if your company is absolutely everything, then that's what you're going to want to do.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm not behind the hustle, as in I don't defend it as a like way of working and way of living. But for me, I think it is, I see it more as something you've got to do at certain times. And then other times, because of just ebbs and flows in everything, you do take more time off. And it's not as straightforward as a 9 to 5. If 1 week, 1 month, you have to put in the 7 to 11, so that, you know, after once it's going, you can take a step back and just work mornings for a while or whatever, however that looks for you, then that's just how it's going to be. And I don't think it's as straightforward. Do I think that, you can do the hustle for decades at a time? I don't see how it can be sustainable, but I would love to hear other people's opinions. Like you said, somebody who does defend this way of doing it. I think, sometimes
we need to get your granddad back on.
He would just be like, what are you talking about? Of course it's doable. Been doing it for 70 years.
Maybe a quick stat on that side of things. So the WHO reported in 2021 that working 55 plus hours a week is linked to 35% higher risk of stroke and a 70% higher risk of heart disease. So priorities, guys. Whatever you dig.
Yeah.
But if you really love what you're doing, then I don't think it should be causing that much stress. I feel like that's a lot linked to stress. So
yeah. And actually on that point, we didn't talk about him today, but I was having a conversation with my mum, and for some reason, Steve Jobs came up and she said about how he died at like 50 something from cancer. And it's the kind of thing, you know, he had all the success, all the money, and still health got in the way, and his life was cut way too short. I'm not saying that he got cancer because of the stress of starting up a business, because who knows? Like, there's no way of knowing that. Yeah, I'm sure that I imagine that he wasn't thinking, oh, I'm glad that in my 55 years of life I started Apple and that's all I did. I mean, not that that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to be so politically correct. Yeah, that it's not, you know, that success in your business doesn't guarantee anything else. So yeah, everyone has to make choices.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a lot more confident in what I think about this topic coming out of this conversation. Like, I stand by how I want to work, and I will do what I need to do to get things done when they need to, but I won't go above and beyond when it doesn't necessarily have to happen. Like, when a week doesn't need 100-hour week, I'm not going to do 100-hour week, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's my priority, and it's just not sustainable for me, and it's not going to bring me more joy than going out and doing something else.
I agree. I feel like it sounds like I've been all over the place on opinions, but
I love it.
You said. I feel like I've changed my mind about 50 times in this one episode, but I agree with what you said.
Great.
So yeah, bring on the questions. Let's do it. Let's try and
I have a couple questions before time is up, because we are doing our best to keep this season a little bit shorter. I'm not doing a very good job so far, but
well, yeah. Okay, we're doing okay.
I'll do a couple questions and then we're done.
Yeah.
But it's been a very therapeutic conversation, this one.
It has.
Our first question is, how do you set boundaries without looking lazy at work? I struggle with this one, honestly. I struggle with kind of explaining why I need these boundaries, other than I just don't want to work that much, you know? But it isn't just I don't want to work that much. It's for my own, health.
I've already worked this much. It's not that I don't want to keep working. It's that I've already worked. It's time for mama to rest. I think and I think as an entrepreneur even more, because you haven't got someone saying, okay, it's time for you to go home. Like, it is a schedule that I've set for myself. So yeah, it's really hard to be like, and why aren't I working more today? Especially when you have the energy and the creativity too. And it's like, I rather do something else with that. So I've worked my 8 hours. I'm now going to go. I still have energy. I'm still feeling excited and motivated. I'm going to go and do something that I enjoy doing outside of work. It's like, oh, but why aren't you putting that into your work? It's hard. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go back to the quote from last week. To have a balanced life is like having a balanced diet, nourishing, filling, and not too much of any one thing. And that's all I'm going to say.
So if, for example, we're having to imagine you are working with somebody and you're having to explain to them why you're setting that boundary and that it's not because you're lazy, what would you say?
So last week I had a couple of days off, and I now, praise the Lord, have 2 phones, and one is very much more work. And I left it. I didn't even take it with me. And when I got back, a little bit of anxiety, I'm not going to lie, turning it on Monday and being like, eh. And I had quite a few messages from people. And there was quite a few messages from people on a Thursday, and then on the Friday again being like, hi, where are you? Mm-hmm. Even though I'd said I'm going to be away. There was some from clients who it's not a continuous relationship, so they didn't know I was away. But yeah, and I did just say, I was on holiday last week. I'm back in the office now. What do you need? How can I help you? Do I feel the need to justify it further? No, not at this stage of my life. I think the only person I need to justify it to is myself at the moment. Mm-hmm. And just saying I've worked hard, so I'm now taking 4 days off. Because why? Because I want to. It's a trip that I want to do. And even if it wasn't, I think it's easier that it was a trip rather than just staying at home. Because if you're staying at home, and then it's harder. But yeah, it's something that I've been looking forward to, and I also want to do, and I also want to enjoy. I think I'm very motivated at the moment. I've moved to the UK for a year to test it out. So in that year that I'm here, I want to really take advantage and do as much as possible while I'm here. So that's like a really good excuse. It's like we've planned and talked about, we've talked about and said how nice it would be to do X, Y, Z. Now that we're here, we're forcing ourselves to make time for all these things we've talked about we'd like to do. So it's hard. It's hard to justify it to other people. If someone gets really in your face, I don't know if I just be like, you've got to respect my personal boundaries, or just, I don't even know how to put it. It's hard. It's really hard.
I think there's 2 ways of going about it. If you're having to give this explanation for somebody that you're working for or somebody that you're working with, that you need to give them the explanation of why you're setting these boundaries, you can either say, and both of them are true, you can either say, this is also in work's best interest, because taking this time to rest or to do this thing that I enjoy, it's going to recharge me to then be able to do my best work. And then alternatively, you can, and it's okay to say, I enjoy what I do at work, but this isn't my entire life. And I have other things that I enjoy too. And they are also a priority of mine. And this is why I'm setting these boundaries, because I want to leave space for those things as well.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
As somebody that's, kind of had to give these explanations. And then the second question is, my boss brags about working weekends. How do I push back without looking unambitious? This one's kind of the same question, but I quite liked how they'd put it.
Yeah. I would probably just say something, maybe it's a little bit passive aggressive, but if they are kind of trying to get you to say something back, I would maybe say something like, I'm so happy that brings you joy.
Yeah.
Or I really hope that that's
oh yeah,
bringing
me
you
too.
joy.
I had an amazing, yeah. Or like, oh, I also had an amazing weekend. I went and I did this, like
Yeah.
if they're choosing to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that,
exactly.
they can't
Yeah,
necessarily always expect the same from you.
exactly. It's a different question if they are expecting that from you, and it's like, how do I say I'm not comfortable working weekends? You just say I'm not I don't like what literally the answer you gave before. Like this isn't. I have other
Not in the
things
company's
outside of
best
work life.
interest.
No one's best interest. Yeah, yeah. I would be a little bit sassy about it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do. I've made it pretty clear, my stance on the subject. And
Yeah.
it works, if you do a good job when you are working, then you don't really have to explain to
you're
anybody.
on. When you're off, you're off. And, people can't complain because when you are on, you give them good results. So respect me.
Well, super, super interesting topic.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed the conversation with you because for once I feel like we do have different views of the topic and you've given insight that I hadn't necessarily thought of. So super cool. We'll get a crazy hustler on next time to give us their insight.
Would be so interesting. And I think it's definitely one of those that I feel like it's an ongoing conversation, and I feel like we even may change our views and opinions and thoughts on it as time goes because it's very open-ended. So very interesting conversation today. I feel like a lot of these conversations in the season are going to be more kind of like that, a bit more.
Yeah. No,
I guess it's philosophical
to actually answer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So hope you.
So thanks for sticking around. Thanks for sticking around. If you did, well done for making it this far into this philosophical conversation. And we'll see you next week. Let us know what you thought. Send us a comment. You can comment straight onto our Spotify if you're listening on Spotify. You can also head over to YouTube, where all of our episodes also go up on YouTube.
Yeah, you can see us and all the faces we pull. Thank you so much again for joining us. And next week, we are going to be talking about the art of switching off, which is something.
How do we get this balance?
Yeah, exactly. I struggled with a lot. I think Saoirse's got a better grip on it than me, but after a lot of practice. So yes, we will be diving into that. And some tips and things that we do. Yeah, we're excited to see you there.
See you then.